Well, between this and John Wick Chapter 4, I guess 2023 is just the year for shoot-'em-up action flicks. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name's Josh, and today we're going to be talking about the new Netflix original, Extraction 2. This is a sequel to the 2020 film Extraction. Just like the first one, this is directed by Sam Hargrave, who was actually a stunt coordinator before he went on to direct the first one as his debut. And I just want to touch on how cool that is, that this guy was a stunt coordinator. He actually was Captain America's stunt double in a couple of his films. And now here he is directing his own action franchise. That's just really cool, and it shows that he's very good at his previous job as well. This is a movie that I really wish I could have seen on the big screen. As much as I like that this is being made, I do wish it would get a theatrical release instead of just going straight to streaming, because wow, are there some cool things in this movie. This sequel picks up right where the last one ended. Chris Hemsworth's Tyler Rake has barely survived his injuries from the previous film, and before long, he's contacted by none other than Idris Elba. Now he's being asked to rescue a mother and her two children from her husband, who is a Georgian gangster. And from that point onward, like as soon as the setup is done, this entire film is just absolute propulsive, unadulterated action movie machismo. I definitely did enjoy the first Extraction to a certain extent, but it's definitely one of those action flicks that falls into the caliber of films that you watch only for the action. And I mean, Chris Hemsworth too. He's a great action star. I mean, seriously, this guy might not have an iconic character name attached to him like John Wick or Jason Bourne, but he truly makes his own in this film, and I think this could evolve into a really popular franchise going forward. And I think I remember reading that this character is actually based on a comic series or maybe some other form of media. I don't remember. I just know that it's adapted from something. But yeah, Hemsworth is a total badass, and he carries a lot of the weight of this on his shoulders. The story and the characters in the first film were a little bit more thinly developed, and I think that's definitely the case here too. But wow, did they ever up the ante when it comes to the action. There's a 21-minute sequence early on in this film that's meant to look like it was shot completely with no cuts. There's obviously a couple of instances where they do cut the camera, and if you look really closely, you can kind of pick them out. But that doesn't really detract from how incredible the choreography is in this entire sequence, and just the sheer number of bodies that get wasted, whether we're talking about gunshots, stabbings, decapitations, throat slittings, shovels, all sorts of different weapons and different types of deaths that are happening here. And it's all shot so well. A lot of the choreography is just so impressive. Now, yeah, if you slow it down, you could probably find a couple of instances where, you know, you catch a bunch of red shirts sort of pulling their punches so Chris Hemsworth can keep up, because he's got so much to do here. I mean, I can't even imagine some of the preparation that went into some of these sequences where he has to fight so many different people, and he's got to memorize the order to complete all of these crazy moves, and just insanity. It's insanity, it really is. And it's all in frame, it's not shaky, it's brutal, it's visceral. Very similar, I guess you could say, to the action sequences in some of the John Wick movies, although it maybe feels a little bit less stylized here, maybe meant to be a little bit more gritty, and I'm fine with that. It makes its own identity out of this. It really puts you in the perspective of the characters too, just the way the sounds work, especially if you have a nice surround sound speaker system like I watched this with. You really, like, when bullets fly by, you hear it, it sounds so crisp. A lot of the soundtrack is really good. This movie is just super immersive, especially that 21-minute all-timer, and that is, seriously, I am not selling it short when I say it's probably one of the coolest action sequences I've seen in a film in a long, long time. The only real downside to it is that it happens so early in the film that throughout the rest of it, you just know it's not going to even try to top that. And because of that, I sort of wish they maybe saved it for later in the film, but that's kind of a nitpick, to be honest. Although I think the dialogue is still not great in this movie for the most part, and a lot of the characters are very thinly written and two-dimensional. I appreciate that they do a good job of getting us invested in the family that he's trying to rescue. I mean, because there's kids involved, you're going to be invested because no one wants to watch kids die. But it just really adds to the intensity when bullets are flying and Hemsworth is trying to protect them, and there's just so much shit happening at once. And I do really like this character of Tyler Rake, but also, I mean, it's Chris Hemsworth. We want him to succeed because he's awesome and he's a badass. But if we didn't have this connection to that family, the stakes would be much lower because we really wouldn't be caring about what actually happens. We just want to see him mess some dudes up. which is fine too. But my point is, I think a lot of the supporting actors do a good job, particularly this mother and her two kids were shockingly good at getting me immersed in their story and just knowing what they went through and the sort of inner family turmoil that happens because of their situation and the way that these kids were raised. It's not super deep or anything, I just think it did a better job of getting me invested in that side of things than the first Extraction did. As much as I absolutely loved the action in this movie and I could really gush over it for eternity really, there still are some big glaring issues in this film. There are definitely a lot of instances where the bad guy henchmen have stormtrooper aim, there's bullets flying everywhere, the characters are just running in a straight line away from them and somehow they're unable to hit or injure any of them. Not saying the plot armor is horribly prevalent here, there are some situations where some of the characters actually do feel like they're in genuine danger and I really appreciate that. It's just like when there's 30 guys shooting at you and not a single bullet grazes you, that takes you out of the moment a little bit. There's another sequence that results in the main villain being out for the count. He's on the ground and the characters could easily kill him and they just don't for some reason. That's a real frustration. And again, as a whole, the story is very thinly written. It's predictable. It's the type of movie that you could pretty much summarize, barring a few details, in just one paragraph. Also, the villain is generic as hell. I mean, he's just your basic big evil douchebag who wants vengeance for somebody who died in the past. I really genuinely feel that if they put more effort into the screenwriting aspect of this film, this could have been one of the best action movies of the last decade or so, but I think the story does let it down a little bit and sort of hold it back from fulfilling its fullest potential. With that said, that 21-minute sequence is so good that I think it warrants a watch on this alone. I'm definitely down to see more of these, and this does sort of set up the possibility for a third film. I would like to see Hargrave return to direct that one, maybe just bring in some new writers that can polish up the story and give the characters a little more depth beyond Tyler Rake, because again, I like him as a character. Chris Hemsworth really brings the charisma. I just think that we need some more from the supporting characters. So I'm going to give Extraction 2 3.5 out of 5. It's a fun time, guys. It's not perfect. It does have some flaws. The story is probably exactly what you're expecting, but go watch it if you want to see Chris Hemsworth just mess some dudes up for 2 hours, because I had a great time with it. But as always, those are just my thoughts on the movie. Be sure to drop down into the comments. Let me know if you liked this more than the first Extraction, because I think I prefer it over the first. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe while you're at it if you want to see more content like this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.